Okay. Hello. Hi, hi, hi. How are you? All right. I have had a busy, busy day, but let's take a look at the page for this afternoon. Yesterday, we worked from 3 words that were suggested. They were, I forgot what they were. Anyhow, they're in here someplace. Um, oh, I know what it was. I think I got confused about what the words were for today, and I forgot the flower. That's what it was. And I thought it was love for some reason, so I put love in there. So I've got up here the finished version of it as a one-page story. So as a one-page story, this is what it looks like. Now, as a scan with the text on it, this is what it looks like. Okay, and the original looks like this. And so we take the original, we put it in the computer, put the text on the one layer, flip it, put the text, like you flip the whole image 180, and then you put the text on the other layer, and that's how you get your text the right side up for the panels. And then it comes sectioning it apart, right? But before, so this is what that result ends up looking like. Text in the right spots where we need them. Hi, Linda. Hi, Tim. Welcome aboard. And then we break up the panels. We section them off individually. We correct the orientation on half of them, and we put them in the proper order. And so there is our story. And yeah, this is chock-a-block of silly jokes, or not silly jokes, but little secret insights like the act of doodling is rooted in all of us. Root tree, get it? And that just transitions over from the tree drawn behind the title text. But then the next panel, where I talk about, it comes to us as simply as rhythm does. Well, what I'm relating to there is of course, the drummer, right? Well, in this case, the drummer is from the band The Roots, named Questlove. So then when I go into the next bit, where I start talking about love, and how we do the things that children we doodle consistently, and we scribble out images of what we value. So Questlove transitions into doing what we love. I'm a complicated boy. All right, so there we are. So there's where we're at for our page for today. Now in Cameron Now, what I have is the actual page, and or I'm sorry, the actual page, the original art without the text, unfortunately. But this is what it looks like as the booklet. And so each of the panels are their own. And so when you look at the booklet like this, there you are. But it still just folds out to that first image we saw. So that'll go in the pile. And yeah, and then I'll print out one of these and put it in with all the other ones that have been done so far. Now, yesterday I talked about something for people that might have popped by yesterday. I talked about light, and basically the gist of it is this. I've been making all kinds of, between origami and little cutout templates, I've been making, Linda says that turned out great. Hey, thanks, Linda. I've been making all kinds of shapes. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that as we're talking about drawing things, now I have to remember where I put something now. Ah, my brain. I don't know. Oh, I do. Okay, so, hi Liz, welcome aboard. So this is a triangle. Hold on, get the tape. Or a tetrahedron. This is the official name for a triangle. It's a tetrahedron. Now, I'm going to move this bit of paper here. So when I put this down on a surface, whoops, let's do it with the part with the tape we just put down on it. So there is, what did I just drop? That's disconcerting. I have to sort that out. Okay. Screw fell out of the bottom of my chair. I don't know what that means. So when I set this down on the surface that we have, okay, and I have a light source that's coming this way and a light source that's coming this way. Now, in addition to that, there are ambient light sources from the ceiling. Right? What am I missing? I was inspired to clean or craft, so I'm hemming some shorts instead. That's how it works. So the whole idea to show you is that, and I've got this, what do we call a pencil? And I'm going to utilize our pencil in such a fashion. This is why I had the paper down, now I remember. All right, now, so when I put our triangle down, when I put our shape down, if I'm trying to figure out how shadows work, I've got our object down on the surface. Now we know our object takes up this space, right? We know that our light source is coming from here, as I've stated, and from here, okay? And then there's also ambient sources from up above. Yeah? It's a great choice, Linda says. So now when we look at how the shadows work, right, we can see that there's a shadow here. Okay, that shadow continues out through here, but it also has a really light one going out there. And then on the opposite side, we have the same kind of a scenario. But you can see how this is more direct than that is because the lines here are far wider apart. Now, when I take the pyramid away, or the tetrahedron, so you can see, and I'll zoom in. Am I zooming? And we're zooming. Zooming in. Okay. So now you can see here's our triangular shape, and then you can get a sense of how the shadows move out from that object. So, which may be strangely complex, but it's not, right? So the other part of when we had our shadow placed is that we knew we could see how these lights, the shadow here is a little darker than it is on this side. But that's because, like I said before, this is a more direct light coming this way. So this is more in shadow, whereas this is less powerful, so it's a slightly louder tone, or a slightly lighter tone, louder. And then this is just brightly illuminated, right? So when we're sitting down and we're figuring out where our shadows are and how they come off of objects, I'm just doing this really sloppy, but you know, you get the idea of it, right? Right. So I'm going to come. The reason that I'm overlapping the other areas is so that you can see the 3 different tonal values now off of our cast shadow. It's a really kind of a basic thing. You can do the same thing with a cube, right? Where you can look at how the light works off of a cube source, and we'll put that on the surface. So maybe I'll stick it down flat. How's that sound? Sounds great, Chris. Okay. Well, it's just popping up here, isn't it? Not being helpful, cube. It's a tape I'm using, I think. Okay, so here's our cube. Look at the crazy shapes we get off of this. Right? Now, because of where I'm holding the paper, the more direct light source, and maybe it's also to do with the size of it, is coming off this direction here. So we're getting this great these great bits of all these shadowed shapes coming together. And then of course there's the light one that's over here on this side. All right, so whoops, I'm sorry. So if this is our cube in the center, and again, when we look at where the shadows are on the sides of the cube, which we can't really see from this overhead angle, this is very dark on this side. This is light, and this is slightly darker there. So when you sit down and you look at how the shadow now pushes out of everything, you can start to understand that this is darker, this part here is darker, but you can see how all the shadows are overlapping and cascading with one another. So I hope that that helps to make some sense for folks about how light can work. And so if you make some of these shapes for yourself and sit down and start putting a flashlight on things and hold them up, you know, hold it up like this and go, oh, I see how the light's coming from there. So therefore, right? And it will sort of empower you to get a good solid sense of how light works. Now that's not including how, you know, light bounces back onto from one plane to another. So if there's white paper and you've got a different colored object, there's going to be a slight bit of white value kicked into the other object because it's reflection of light. But let's just, you know, set that aside for the moment and focus on how shadows come off objects. So with this in mind, if we draw our camera, no, let's do it here. So if we draw our cube shape and we understand that our light source is coming from here, this side that is not facing us is going to be very bright, whereas this side is going to be a mid-tone. But our back area, that's where our shadow is. And so if our light source is coming from there, we can see how the shadow is going to move this way, but more directly, we understand, because of the shape of the cube, that the deeper shadow is going to be back here. Now there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about how this color and this color is basically the same thing, and this color moves into that color, so you could really just do it as one value, or you could differentiate with a thin rime of light. Is this the tool to do it? I don't know how good this eraser is. There we go. Around the bottom, which separates those two planes. So, but what this is doing is sort of helping you to have some measure of comprehension about how the light works there. So when you're drawing your objects in space, you can sort of get a sense of, you know, how those work. And so a little study aid, like having some shapes around in your space, your working space, can help to benefit from those. Here's my circle. It's an eyeball. So you can see the same kind of a thing. Sorry, I'm holding my finger here for a second. But you can see how there's multiple circles coming off of this. Right? So that when we look at our... Oh, that was a terrible tracing. Anyways. So if this is our object, you can see how all of these layers of cascading value are coming down now. And it's the same as the cube, it's just circular. Okay? So anyways, I'll get more into that, I think, at some point. But I still have yet to put together my dodecahedron and my icohedron. So, icohedron, I'm not sure what they're called. And I got to do something better for my sphere than an eyeball. So, the eyeball just attacked me. Yeah, you're watching. I'm going to slip on that later. Man died in London, Ontario, Canada today from slipping on an eyeball in the studio. Yeah. Okay, So yeah, so today's page was fun. It was pretty straightforward to do. I thought let's do another one, but what I thought I might do is to grab one of these many sheets of jelly plated surfaces that we have in the old studio here. That's not on craft paper. There we go. So I've got one. So I like things like this. I like the outside edges, you know, still having paper revealed on them. I like that, you know. So I'm gonna use this. This is what I'm referring to here. So I'll use this for today's story. So I'm just going to do the same thing as I did yesterday. Now, but we're going to change how we do this. I have done a number of different versions of the zine books and utilizing 2-page formats, using variations of 1-page, 2-page panel formats, or 2-panel formats, I'm sorry, is what I meant. 1-page, 2-panel variation formats, single panel formats, continuing narrative of characters cascading across an entire layer. So that's a 4-panel format, and then conversely another one. But I want to try something different today. And what I want to try is a whole image. But in said whole image, we have aspects of it that filter out into independent panels. So what I mean by that is I want to figure out whatever this is that I'm doing, that it has to have one larger image or scenario for all of the characters to be in, but then each panel with its individual orientation has to work for our narrative. So, how are we going to do that? I don't know. Anyways, I'm looking for a note. I wrote a note here for myself. I have a suggestion that came in from our friend Chris R. Not this Chris R. A different Chris R. And I wrote it down, and now I cannot find it. I cannot find. So I'm going to look on my device and see if I can find his suggestion. So just bear with me for a second. So yeah, so when it comes to doing things like this, when it comes to producing these independent individual pages, it's really good to just try, to just give it a go, see what your story approach might direct you to do. Okay, so it's not that. Oh wait, yeah, it was. Okay. Just pulling it up here. Alternative reality filled with jello and lots of earthquakes is his suggestion. Better write that down quick. And then I have another one for tomorrow from Linda. So, alternative reality filled with jello and lots of earthquakes. Chris really likes to challenge me. He really does. He has some pretty crazy suggestions. All right, so alternative reality filled with jello and lots of earthquakes. I have no idea how to even start with that, because my first thought is the Kool-Aid Man for some reason. I don't know why, but I just maybe in my head it was the Jello Man for a second there, but the Kool-Aid Man going, oh yeah, but that's not the right product or branding or any of that in the first place, so that doesn't really, that's not synonymous with Jello. Instead of Jello, it should be called gelatin, right? Because Jello is a brand product. Anyways, Anyhow, I'll just show you this for interest's sake. So this is a dodecahedron. This is a, no, I'm sorry, this is the dodecahedron. And that's the dodecahedron. Anyways, I've got a whole bunch of, this is a truncated octahedron. This is a icaohedron, so that's like 20. No, I can't remember how many that is. And then this is octagonal prism. So basically, I'm trying to do all the different sorts of shapes that I can think of, so that I can just use those as an example for people. So today's one-page story is from Chris R. How do you spell that? How do I spell what? Icaohedron or ichiohedron? ICIOHEDRON. Now someone's going to tell me, it's hedron, Chris. Okay, well, I know. All right, so we've got our page, alternative reality filled with jello and lots of earthquakes. So what kind of things would live in alternative reality filled with jello and lots of earthquakes? Wow, Linda, you got it. Nice. What would live in a universe of jello, of gelatin? I think all of the things that live in that would be, well, for one, they'd be jiggly. But if we're going to have sentient people in there, it's going to be more bulbous figures, I would think, right? It would be, there's a character I always loved in a comic that I read as a child called Legion of Superheroes. And they have a character called Bouncing Boy, and what it is that his power is elasticity. And, so they always draw him as being like very rotund. But he inflates to a giant ball and bounces around and smashes through things and breaks things. And it's only recently, it's only in like the last decade that people realized this silly character, this silly business, he's actually quite, when you think about that ability, he's actually quite powerful. Because if he's indestructible and can bounce, with kinetic force and smash into things, he could do some damage. So, anyhow, so our idea here is, so we want to have everything move to the center, right? So it's everything sort of circularly oriented to the middle. Now, we know that this top corner, I'll put these here if that helps people. I'll put little hash marks. I don't know that they're even showing up in the camera. But, so we know this is our title page, right? Right. So we'll start here. I thought maybe it would be fun or interesting, at some level, to have a sort of character oriented to the center. I'm going to have to tilt stuff if I'm going to orient everybody into the center. And enough of the drawing with pencil, Runciman. Quit being a chicken and just draw with more permanent mark making things. Okay. All right, so what am I missing? My glasses. I'm blind as a bat right now, folks. All right, here we go. So we've got our first character. So let's draw. I'm going to draw his eyes in, and then we'll start pulling. I'll zoom in more. Are you going to work for me, Mr. Zoom? Hey, look at that. Hey, Macarena. Okay. So I'm going to draw our first character, and then I'll start. So I'm going to put some dark marks down first, and then we'll start putting some light marks and pull that character back off of the background. Better. There we go. Better. Get the bucket. Anyways, so am I in frame? I'm going to get my head out of the way because I never know if I'm blocking the picture or not. You don't need to see me. I'm goofy looking. So, all right. So we've got our guy. So let's just start putting him in. See, as soon as I turn the camera off me, I switch places with Corbin. This is really Corbin drawing. Meow. That's Corbin's meow sound now. So we're drawing our first character in. Happy. So I'm using a Faber-Castell Goldfarbe, Faber-Castell pencil crayon. I really like these ones. I really do. They've got there's certain things like the best white is Prismacolor, but it just seems to be able to appear more readily on more surfaces. But my favorite pencil crayons are these guys. Also, they get the cool gray color and the very fancy specific color of the pencil on the end, which is very helpful. I was watching a movie last night, and I hate so much in movies where somebody is somebody's an art character, like this person's an artist, and as somebody comes into their place and they take whatever pencil they've got and they throw it in a tin can or like a juice can where they keep all of their pencils or brushes or whatever it is, and they always throw the pencil in there, and I cringe every time I see that in anything. Because anybody who has pencils knows that's how you smash all the lead in your pencil. Nobody would do that with their pencils. These non-artist types. What are they called? Actors. That's what it is. Actors. There's a funny expression in the British. It's called dressing up. When they talk about doing costume plays or things like that, and it's dressing up. Just like I heard a teacher say, I used to be a teacher, and the other person goes, I'm a teacher in the audience, and he goes, what grade do you teach? And they go, kindergarten. He goes, that's just coloring in, man. Sort of blanket expressions about stages of development. But yeah, there's certain things that when somebody's enacting a role, and but then they do things like that if you know, you know. Your pencil lead smashing, because that's when somebody tries to sharpen that pencil from that point forward, it's just all broken lead. I'm sensitive about it, very sensitive. So we've got our guest rooms upstairs because Lori's moving her office into my studio space, and we have set up a library in the house. One of the rooms in the house is now just books, and so I'll be doing a little tour of that very soon, and just sort of taking people through the new areas now as they stand. But exciting times at the old hat factory. So here's our first character, a little cartoony, a little bit cartoony really, but let's have him be happy. All right, just checking to see if I was missing anything in chat. So there's some fun suggestions coming in. Keep them coming, folks. I really appreciate those. I like the challenges, and some people are clearly really trying to, hey, let's see you draw this one, monkey boy, and I'll do my best. I've got a whole bunch of projects that I've been working on this year. I've been far busier, very appreciatively, but I've been far busier this year than I have in the past two already, and which is great, but it's made me a little bit less consistent about streaming and posting, and I apologize for that, folks, but I appreciate people coming and hanging out when I do get here. Okay, so here's our first character. So there's our first guy, and I'm going to give him some crossed arms, I think, here. I like the idea of learning different shapes and different forms and exaggerating different aspects of characters. There's a fantastic thing that they've carried over. The new Spider-Verse animated films that have come out in the last a few years, and there's another one coming to sort of wrap it all up. They've adapted a version of a character called the Kingpin that Bill Sienkiewicz interpreted in a very specific way, where he gave him a massive, massive physical presence, and they've got that in the new films. And I gotta tell you, it makes me really happy to see that. It makes me really happy to see more representation of different types of characters instead of everybody always being a muscular person with wearing their underpants on the outside, or however we call superhero costumes. So I'm drawing our first character, and this will be our title image, and then we'll move on to the next one. So what I thought was, if this is going to be, this is just thought I just came up with while chatting here. If this is going to be set in a gelatin reality that has lots of earthquakes, how do we represent that? Like, how do we visualize that for folks? Well, I think that the notion that I have is, why don't we have everybody sort of looking like they're in flux, like they're bouncing around or jumping up or down or some such. So this is a jelly plated surface that I'm working on today. I started, when I first learned about jelly plating, I thought, wow, that's great, I want to try that. Maybe I can learn to do some transfer techniques and maybe short step how much I have to draw on projects, or maybe I can incorporate some really cool city visuals and backgrounds or stuff like that, and then quickly learn how I'm not very good at doing jelly plating. So instead, what I've been utilizing the prints that I've been making for is surfaces for me to draw on, for me to do one-page stories on. And they add all this beautiful color, these interesting combinations of things. Gel printing, yes, thank you so much, Linda. They add all this really interesting surfaces and value shifts in the background, and there's a fun part of that it saves you. It makes decisions for you that you might not have actually made. Were you coloring the surfaces yourself, or were you painting in your backgrounds? You may not have made some of these choices, and so this can lead to kind of really happy accidents, happy opportunities. And I like that. Yes, sir, I like that a lot. So this is just a white Posca that I'm coming in, and I'm beefing up some values here and there. I think I have to go over certain spots a couple of times in order to get it more opaque, but that's all right. No problem with that. So yeah, so we'll give that a minute. So here's our first character. I haven't figured out the titling of this or anything like that. I know that I want everything moving towards the center part of our image. So if we flip our page over now, so we can see our guy is now upside down on the actual page, but we know that he is the cover, the first page of our flip book. Linda says there's lots of opportunities for color in Jello. How do you choose? Well, you choose it by your favorite flavor, which is impossible. How do I show what the flavor is? Yeah, and I know. So, yeah. So let's try figuring out more approaches to moving into the center. I think one of the things that I like is to just have this be happy, have it be a happy page of lots of characters. So let's pull back for a second. So there's our first panel, there's our cover image. So now I'm going to work in this space right here. Okay, so that's the frame that I'm working in now. See if I can get this. Come on, zoomy. It's the wrong hand. Remember I told before how my one hand, the zoom never works for it? That was the hand. All right, so there's our first guy. So let's do our next one. Cherry is good. Well, cherry is good. And lime. Yeah, I like the green, the lime one. I think that may well be my favorite thing. So, okay, so now we're going to do our next figure in this our Jello world. So the wonderful thing about a more corpulent form is that you're going to have all kinds of really fun and organic shapes to use to represent your character. There's been a couple of instances artistically where you'll see that happening in artwork. Modigliani had this methodology that he'd figured out for bending the line to show. So he would do a person's neck where it'd have this taper, but as it got into this part of the neck, it would thicken up. But, oops, I'm sorry, I did it above, like so. But it would imply all of this volume. So if their chin has this little underline of value, then you can really see how the weight works in something. And simple marks. Simple marks made. And he painted such beautiful people, always with these really long necks, though. But it was never a straight line with him. It was always a curving line. Anyhow. Body is beautiful in all kinds of different ways. I love how your people seem to come alive as you draw. Oh, well, thanks. That's very nice of you. Okay, so here's our next character. And so I'm going to be... Oops, I'm sorry, off camera. I apologize. The trick is, do I have them, wearing clothes or whatever? I think so, because of modesty and, we want everybody to be happy with something. And oh my goodness, the nudity. So here's our next figure, and I'm having this person jumping through the space, but I've tilted the axis of them so that they're similar in axis to the image up above. But very much smaller in scale and jumping off into the background here in the distance. Lots of organic shapes. What I mean by that is no straight lines. Lots of bendy lines, lots of lines to imply weight. Hey, Susanna, I love lime green. Yeah, I like lime I think, the most. Now, bear in mind, I haven't had Jello in I don't know how long, but I definitely haven't had it in the last 4 years. I don't know that I'm able to. It seems pretty sugary to me. So here's this character coming in. And so now we're going to draw their hair coming up. There we go. Made a choice for the hair to appear there. We're going to draw just people with a universe of Jello. So I have an idea for when I draw the images. There's a part of me that wants to put bubbles and things all over the place. You have to have the horrid grandma's Jello mold salad. Oh, yeah, we're going to definitely have some Jello mold business going on in this. That's a great suggestion. I appreciate that, Liz. That's great. Eat your Jello. It doesn't stop moving. You eat that Jello. It was made with love. Do it or you're grounded forever. That doesn't sound like love. Anyways. So here's our next character. So I've got this full-figure gentleman jumping into the foreground. Right off of the page. And we'll put some shadow under the arm there. Fun thing with drawing with pencil crayon is that you can just do you can control all your lines. With grated carrots. Oh, no. I just don't like grated carrots at all. I put some grated carrots in your salad. Ah, why? Now I got all them orange bits everywhere. I'm a giant baby, so here's our next person coming in. Giving him a big beard like Obelix. I don't know if people are familiar with Asterix and Obelix. From when I was a kid, I used to love reading those so much. And I always got a kick out of, their mustaches and beards, and everybody had one. It was so weird. Okay, so here he is jumping. So hopefully we got a sense of movement through the form. And so now the rest of it has to be exampled in the legs. That's how it'll really, because it's one thing for us to see an upper body and go, okay, that person's moving through space, but we're not sure if they're dropping or leaping or whatever it is. It's all mixed with whole grapes. Grapes and Jello look like eyeballs. Oh my goodness. I've never thought about that before. They look like eyeballs. So I'm just drawing in some of the shapes in the fabric here. So we're going to have him moving forward, like leaping through space. So, and then he's going to be behind whoever's this next panel. This guy's having a yabba dabba doo time. So we'll come in with the white in just a second and start cutting some of this back so that you can see more clearly our character popping through. Let's get this out of leg drawn. I don't necessarily want to draw everything because I want him to be, behind somebody, but let's just do it now and then we'll figure it out in a moment. Okay, so in with the white Posca. Grapes and Jello do look like we're going to look at that again the same way. Now I want to make Jello, just put grapes in it. It could be really gross and put green grapes in cherry flavored Jello. That would definitely look macabre. Maybe not, I don't know. Look, Christmassy, that's my Christmas themed Jello. Your Christmas themed Jello looks like eyeballs, Loretta. Anyways. Yeah, I've just never understood the whole grated carrots in things like gelatin. So here's this character coming in now. I'm only going to complete up until this side of this panel because I don't know entirely yet what we're drawing in this panel, the next panel beside us. I think it's going to be another person leaping gaily through the daffodils. So here's our next character. So let's pull back and see how we are. Sometimes they were a blood red color, Jello with green stuff inside. Ugh. So let's pull back. So here's our first two panels now. And yeah, happy. So let's figure out which one's next. Let's do a lady now. And I think that I'm going to pull her closer to the foreground because, not everybody's the same size, right? All right. All right. Okay. Okay, so let's... Oh, I dropped my pencil. So I'm going to erase out this foot. And we're going to put our next character right here in the foreground. So I'm going to zoom in again. Oh, zooming in and out, Chris, give me whiplash. I can get the zoom to work. Again, wrong hand. Just like this hand. Hates the other hand. Hates it. Okay, so here's our first character. So now we're going to do our next one. And go right to the edge of this panel. So here's the first hand. It's too thick, that line. I don't like it. I'm sensitive about them thick lines. Liz says, we're not done our 23 questions. Liz says I only owe her 17. Yesterday she started us off with a doozy and then did a 180 on us and went to really, can't remember what the second one was, but in comparison to the first one, it was very silly. Not silly, you know what I mean, just the complete opposite direction there. There's a fantastic artist named Mitch Bird. He has a couple of books on how to draw. He was the person who did the artwork for a company called Blue Line Pro for their pages. And he shows the fact that we need to learn how to draw different bodies, different shapes and different forms. And so he draws characters in his books that have all kinds of different anatomy, and I love it. It's what made me start to wake up to drawing more shapes in people and learning how to draw more form than just a sort of stereotypical, this is the shape of a human. What are you doing with your life? Why is it important? There we go. 2 hits in 1. Thank you, Liz. What are you doing with your life and why is it important? Any takers in the chat? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? What are you doing with your life and why is it important? Oh, I didn't cover up the person's spot. I meant to cover up his foot. Well, that's okay. We're okay with that. We understand this person's behind that person, so it still works. It's a good question, Liz. I just got back from a conference on children's ministry, and I've learned a great deal of things. And so I've got all kinds of interesting new ideas for stuff with how kids' minds work and the different ages and states of development and self-actualization. So I'm excited to implement some of those things, some of that understanding. How is that important? It's important that we pass on to younger people what we know. You know, I don't have an awful lot of things to offer in this here old mudball of a planet, but if I can teach kids how to express themselves and find creative means of getting in touch with themselves and what they believe, I'm going to do it. Okay, so here's this lady I'm drawing in here. Anybody else got what are you doing with yourself and why is it important? That's all how you ask, right? They say sometimes when you're working on, a piece, story, or art, or what do you have to say? These people are having fun. I don't really have a big message on this page. Live it up. Maybe that's it. So I hope you can start to see how the person is jumping forward and happy. I want to make sure that they're happy. So some of the differences in the eye shape and things like that are going to be done with the white. So I don't want to have to be putting too many lines down there when I'm really just going to cut those shapes out with the other value. Okay, here's our next character. So I tried to show that her hands are receding into the space by making them smaller as they go, but we'll see how that works out. And I'm not going to draw the second arm in quite yet, but it's pretty much going to be there. I'll start it here, but there we go. I'm not going to draw any more than that because I got to put the next person in front of it. Let's see if we can make so you can see how this character is in the space now, hopefully. I got the double hit from Liz today. If groundhogs are like woodchucks, then how much ground could a groundhog hog if a groundhog could hog ground? I could also have said discus isn't just something you throw around in the Olympics. Discuss. Wah, wah. I think that joke works better when it's written down. I don't know. What do we do that contributes value? Why is it important? It's a subjective thing because I think what everybody does has value and importance. As long as you're not doing something with malicious intent and to hurt each other, or you're a lawyer or a politician. What? I'm finding it so difficult being retired and finding value in what I do, and it's just me and my sweetie hanging out. I send supportive messages. Yeah, you say that, Liz, but there's value in what you're doing. You've lived a life, right? Now you're at the point with your retirement where you can breathe a little bit for one, and relax is well deserved. We can't live our entire lives at work. We can't live our entire lives, especially if we're at work for someone else. We need to do what it is that we do for so long as it provides us with time and accommodation to be able to do the things that we would like, we would enjoy more for ourselves. Now, some people find that fulfillment with their jobs and what they do. It's only since I retired from the store that, and given myself over into, acts of service and taking what skills that, I know how to use and sharing those with others, that I feel there's a sense of fulfillment in that, and other people, oh, you're sitting around doodling, are you? That's fine. That's for them. That's works for them, then that works for them. But for us, we know that we're feeling something. I do nice things for myself and for others each day, Liz says. And I draw a lot or paint. Nice. We live in an age where everything has to be quantified and given value. So-and-so is of import because they have been in all these motion pictures. Nonsense. Just nonsense. But the things that both Liz and Linda have said already are very important things. Very important things. Take time, especially with your loved ones. It's an opportunity you might not have had otherwise. And when you do, and while you do, it means a lot. Maybe to you, you might see it as, oh, am I really contributing? Yeah, you are. Because the person beside you might feel greatly contributed to by your presence. Now, if you're sitting beside your loved one just kicking their chair all day, that's not very nice. Don't do that. Cut it out. Okay, so here we are. There's our first 3 panels. So when we fold this thing up, right, this will be our first, these 2 panels are facing each other. So we can have these characters bleeding over the edge into one another. Now, I want to have this as one continuous image. So I'm going to draw each person as though they're moving in towards the center area, right? But narratively, what we're talking about goes over each page, but it's all going to be one complete image. Challenge of this is when you segment this into a one-page story, you're going to reorient these panels. So I have to figure that part out. So maybe I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but we'll see. But as a zine, as a flip book, the method works. The approach works. Linda says, Liz, just embrace the relaxing and hanging out. It's okay. Yeah, you earned it. You got to this point where you can, right? And I mean, who's to say it's not what you should be doing? I appreciate you've got some time off, but if you've considered running a marathon, you look at that person, you say, shush, you shush. You go run a marathon. Anyways. All right, so let's do another person flying in towards the center. I'm going to tilt the angle again. This is a bit silly, but I'm going to flip them right over because I can, you know. Let me think. This one's pretty large. This person is pretty much in the foreground, so I think I'm going to have to put this next person kind of tucked in behind. Or you know what? I know what I'll do. Yeah, I'm debating. A lot of debating going on here. I gotta tuck him in behind. I've got no choice really. I've sort of set myself up for this scaling as it is. So here we are. Am I in frame? Yep, we're in frame. Good. Go team, go team, go. So working in a thing like pencil crayon. Sometimes people, I don't want to draw in pencil crayon because it doesn't erase as well as pencil. You know, I get it. Makes sense. But sometimes you just gotta throw caution to the wind. Huh? Throw that salami sandwich at the fan. See what blows back. Please don't do that. You get salami in your eyes. Linda says, I retired at 73 and have been retired for 2 years now. It takes some adjustment. And Liz says, wow, you're tough, Linda. At 73, you persevered. I had there's you know, people keep on it until to different ages. I had to tell my father-in-law, you know, you're all right to retire at this point. Like, your kids are all adults, and I mean they were adults, 40s and into 50s. But he was 79, and he was still. He developed COPD, and so he had to take a little oxygen tank with him wherever he was starting to go, just in case he needed to catch his breath. And it's like, how do I carry this up onto a short roof? I'm like, you don't retire, for goodness sakes. Enjoy some time. Enjoy some time. If you can fit some time to enjoy in your world before that retirement, please do. But if there's things that you have interest in and time was a constraint, once you're retired, give them a go. You know, within reason. Oh, I thought I'd take up skydiving. How old are you? 93. Oh, why are you getting out of a completely fine airplane? The airplane's fine. Stay in it. Stay in the plane. Somebody out there saying, well, actually, Chris, we know the airplane is fine, but we're looking for that sense of elation and momentary euphoria and adrenaline. From jeopardizing our lives? No, no one's going to say that. Nobody would say those things to validate skydiving. I'm all about the adrenaline rush and the state of euphoria as I throw caution in the wind and potentially endanger my life. I never fill that out on a insurance report. So here's our one arm forward. So I'm having this person also moving throughout the space. I'm going to put them behind this person's arm. But I really needed to sort of see where they were within the space together. I wasn't sure if the person in the next panel was going to be on top of or behind of
but because, this character, but because I put them so far forward, I don't have much option there. They're going to have to be tucked in. Okay, so there's this one, and then now this one is flying through the space as well. I don't think I'm ever really going to retire per se unless something goes wrong. I don't really get to complain about writing and drawing. I ran into a friend, David, recently, and David, many years as a professional artist, and when I saw him, he's just retired now. Like he's quite content to put away the canvas and to just he enjoys his time in nature, and so it's not that artists never retire. There's such a thing. I just what would I do with myself? Coffee or tea? What's the latest best brand and flavor? I discovered hibiscus tea recently. It's delicious. Which do you prefer, Liz? Oh my goodness, the coffee and tea debate begins. Here we go. Now we're gonna. Oh, here's some solid opinions are gonna come out about this one. Oh boy, tea has started wars. It started whole nations. Not entirely true that, but So here's our next character coming in. So I'm not finishing your foreman yet because I think I'm going to have this person very close to the scene. So I am, however, going to give myself a good sense of where their form is going, their body is going. But let's get right into finishing off these characters and moving on to our next one. I like pumpkin spice tea above all others. Very Canadian of me, I recognize, but I just love it. And it's become very hard to find, around the season because, of course, everybody and their uncle wants to get it, and everybody and their uncle's probably like me. When I discover some, I'll buy a few boxes at once and just like squirrel it away. I've got it all. I've cornered the whole market. Terrible. That's probably why it's hard for people to find. It's because of people like me. So I like letting some of the color through. Like, see how you can bleed through the background like this when you're working on a jelly plated surface. My lung doctor recommended Earl Grey. Better listen there. See, I also like chocolatey chai tea and black licorice tea. And nothing else. No, that's all I can think of. We have a tea drawer in our house. It's an entire drawer full of tea. And somebody's like, Lori says, "Would you like a tea?" And they go, "Sure, what kind?" And then she just pulls the drawer open because there's just too many to list off. We're tea people. Well, I like coffee too. Editing this figure as I'm drawing it in. There See, so some of the fun part is leaving little areas of color bleed through, because you get all kinds of interesting engagement with the eyes, this way. It's and then, if somebody looks at this and doesn't quite understand how you did that, well, then you look like a superstar. Tim's Coffee Black. And I always say whoever doesn't do the coffee run finds the coffee tastes better. Tea with honey or lemon or milk? None of the above. I'm a none of the above guy. I tend to, if anything, have chocolate almond, because I'm a silly person and I'm lactose intolerant. So, trying to control my doodly-doo hat. A message come through. I got a whole bunch of stuff I got to follow up on now. All right. Yeah. I got an idea for one here that is going to move. I want to have this, as I'm thinking about this, as I'm looking at my layout, I'm like, I want a character here to move directly across multiple panels. So here's his arm moving through the space into this one. And I just sort of want to block that out before because this is just a big face that's going to be in the road. Whereas this is something I want to more readily define. You gotta go with the Inspirato. Oh, see, now I'm getting a call. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I gotta wrap up in a second here, folks. I'm getting contacted from a few different directions by the same client, really. Lemon for me. Oh, there we go. Both my sons like dark roast Colombia's coffee with cream. Oh, there you are. Have I ever cut down a tree? Yes. Yes, because I'm a horrible no. I helped many years ago. I helped somebody start clearing a lot off up in northern Ontario for them to build their cabin on. And so we needed to go out there and fell a few trees. And it's you got to be careful. You got to make sure you know where that tree's going. And then just I don't know, within the last month, I helped a friend of mine take down a tree on his property that was becoming dangerous. So he cut, I yanked. You got to make sure it falls the right way you want it to. So sometimes somebody needs to guide it with a rope and make sure it goes a certain way. Have you ever cut down a tree, Liz? That's a fun question. Have you ever wrestled a crocodile? Gotta be careful when somebody asks you a question like, have you ever wrestled a crocodile? Because they might have wrestled a crocodile. They're just looking for you to give them an opening to tell you about that time they wrestled a crocodile. Have you ever held off a bunch of terrorists as they were attacking the White House? Well, coincidentally, I have. You see, you gotta be careful on that. This is I like to call that stuff dangerous, deliciously dangerous. So here's our next character coming in, and he's going to have the same arm spread out to the back as we did earlier. Oh, he runs right to the edge of between the panels, so his face is going to be moving across 2 different spaces. That's fun. Could have oriented that one a little bit better, I think. So there's our next one. Suzanne, are you still there? Hi to the balcony, Linda says. So I'll pull back. We'll see where we're at on the next one-page story / flip zine. We posted one today. This is our next one, based off a suggestion from Chris R. Can't say it's not me. My friend Chris always likes to give me challenging suggestions. Well, yeah, let's see if we can do this. Ha ha ha. Well, no, it's not like that. He's one of the participants in the monthly comic jam that I help to organize. We've got our next one coming up on June. What month is it? It's June 9th, Monday. And I look forward to seeing everybody there. It's a lot of fun. If you get a chance to join a thing like that, wherever you live, if there's some local place that does creative engagements with others, it's a healthy thing, especially if it's something that you're working on stuff cooperatively, because it sort of helps you to step outside of your comfort zone. Try things that you might not normally consider. It helps you to grow creatively. You know, things like the comic jam, you gotta, we're telling an entire comic about a banana today? Okay, let's... Now, we only do it a page at a time. People don't have to continue a narrative over multiple pages or into some sort of largely governed structure. We just focus on the page and the story we're telling therein and the one and move on. Okay, there's our next figure. So let's pull back a tiny bit. There we go. So here's where we are so far on our flip book for today. I didn't run a chainsaw. The big tree was so rotten I pushed it over. Oh my goodness. So thrilling to see all the branches crush, leaves fly around, dust fluff up. Oh yeah, you betcha. So yeah, so here we are for today's flip book, and we're doing it in the same way as we've done. Hold on. Oh my goodness, so many things to move. Like, so these are some of the previous ones that we walked through yesterday, and then this is the one that we've posted today, and it folds up into a handy dandy little book. Now the text is on the ones to be printed, because my handwriting is atrocious, and nobody needs to try to figure that out on a comic page. So this is what we're doing next. And what my objective goal with this one is to do one image where all the characters are moving about throughout it. And the suggestion for today is alternative reality filled with jello and lots of earthquakes. Ooh. There we are. Okay, I think that's going to be about it for me today. I got a couple things I got to get done. And yeah, I hope people are finding this sort of approach interesting. This is a jelly-plated surface that didn't work too successfully that I'm drawing on top of if you want to try this kind of thing as well. And, you know, explore, play, throw different combinations of different things together, see what happens. And, but just have fun, whatever it is that you're doing. Then Great drawing today. Are you going to publish on Instagram? Yeah, this one will be up tomorrow. The other one is up already for today, and that is the doodling ones, about doodling. And then yesterday I put up the page about King Arthur and his balloon sword. It's been an interesting week of the different head angles. Oh, very nice. Thanks very much, Les. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. It's good to chat with everybody. Thank you for joining in the chat. Thank you to Linda, the moderator with the mostest. And I will be back tomorrow to join you again. So tune in. And if it's going to be earlier, I'll let people know. But otherwise, it'll be 2 p.m. EST. Thanks very much, everybody. Have yourselves a lovely day. Go out and make something. Bye for now.